The following story is also available as a read-only version. Check the link in the description if you're interested.
The elevators in the Illinois were fast, yet Jeff Manley felt like he'd been standing in the cabin for an eternity. Even at this speed, going a mile up the Chicago skyline took time. "Have you heard of Colorado Springs yet?" Egon DeBark asked, adjusting his spectacles. The lawyer was clutching a briefcase to his chest. "They're busy securing the air fleet, and they'll be for a while," Jeff responded. "Figures that, in a time where the whole company is facing imminent crisis, they would only think about themselves," DeBark said with genuine spite. "Can you blame him? Ever since the old man shut down their power plant, the Rocky Mountain Air Fleet is the only thing making them any money." Jeff shrugged. "They don't like having red numbers attached to their name. If there's one branch of the company that's safe from being cut, it's Colorado Springs. It has too much sentimental value," DeBark contested. "For the old man, yes, but the thing about the old man is that he's old. And he hasn't died yet?" The lawyer gave him a strange look. "Come on, don't tell me you actually believe that Tesla is never going to die. That's a joke we tell, not something anyone seriously believes." "Rumor has it the Tsar has defeated death," DeBark said. "Rumor also has it that Dunlop built an airship that could go to space. That's the thing about rumors. They're usually bullshit." Before DeBark could respond, the door opened. A Negro lackey wearing an indigo burgundy uniform greeted them, then led them into the penthouse of the Illinois. The foyer was all dark wood and gold, 4 double doors leading off into various sections of the world's richest man's home. The lackey brought them into the main living room, its cream marble floor so polished that Jeff could see his own brutish reflection in it. Flames crackled in a subtly adorned fireplace, above which hung a lavish painting of a man with no face, selling a bottled sunset to a child riding on the back of a cat. Jeff had no idea what it was called, but he did know that it was a genuine Hitler, and one of the old man's most prized possessions. Speakers hidden all over the room were playing the radio, as always. A song by Chuck Manson and the Manson family was being announced, and Jeff cringed a little. It was a dreadful rock tune, the kind of filth youngsters enjoyed these days, but Tesla was still listening to it. Maybe ravaging one's ears with terrible music was the secret to a long life. Bernard Grass, the old man's personal bodyguard and manservant, gave him a friendly nod. Jeff had hand-picked the man, not just for his skill and loyalty, but also because he didn't talk much. The old man preferred it that way. "Well, if it isn't Mr. Not So Manly and the Tulip Jew. Glad you could join us tonight. I was almost afraid you had better things to do than your jobs." Myrna, the old man's youngest daughter, was sitting on a couch, swirling whiskey in a tumbler. Unlike her sisters, who had shown no interest in becoming part of her father's company, Myrna had chosen to pick up the mantle of the surrogate son Tesla never had. In order to be respected, she had become as much a man as she could. She cropped her hair short, wore suits, frequented the gymnasium, and engaged in the same rowdy banter that men like to throw at each other. She was good at it, better than any woman he'd ever met, but sometimes, like right now, she took things a little farther than needed. Jeff knew that, whenever that happened, she was terrified, and if Myrna Tesla was terrified, most people would already be whimpering in the corner. "Miss Tesla, I was dealing with the security aspects of our most recent situation, as is my job," Jeff noted. Egon DeBark remained silent. He was too intimidated by Myrna to say anything. "Where's your father?" "Over here," a voice croaked. Nikola Tesla was hidden halfway behind a column, slouching in his wheelchair. The wisp of hair left on his head was almost ethereal, and his dark, watery eyes couldn't quite seem to focus. In the 2 months since he'd last seen the old man, he'd grown even more emaciated. He was meek, barely more than a skeleton with skin. Plastic tubing emerged from his arms, legs, chest, and neck, feeding into a convoluted array of medical machines built into the wheelchair, half of which Tesla had designed himself.
"I hope old age hasn't made me invisible,"
he joked. At 110 years, his wit had become slow, but the mind behind it was still formidable, and filled with more knowledge and brilliance than half the other geniuses in the world put together. "Mr. Tesla, we may be dealing with an acute security situation here. I've instructed Mr. Ramirez to take all necessary steps to secure the Maracaibo plant," Jeff explained.
"Why are you concerned, Mr. Manley? All of our assets are in the west of Venezuela. The French are invading from the east." Tesla rolled into the middle of the conversation. "And it's unlikely they will even make it over the Orinoco, it's true. I'm worried about the Colombians. They've strong ties to the French and the Russians both. They like to impede the logistics of the United Confederate States, and our power plant in Maracaibo supplies everything from Caracas to Bogota. It's an invaluable strategic asset," Jeff explained. "So the Colombians take the power supply, call it an act of revolution, the baguettes can cross the river, take Venezuela, expel all UCSA ventures, and we lose access to the oil." Myrna was seeing it too. "The UCSA loses Venezuelan oil, we won't be able to be the economic life support of the British, and they won't be able to continue the fight against the Franco-Russian alliance in Europe." "The global politics of this modern world make my head feel heavy," Tesla complained, a smile on his thin lips. "It almost makes me miss the First Great War." "That's why you pay me to see these things coming, sir. We can augment our security forces by recruiting from the local labor pool, but they will be largely untrained civilians facing off against hardened Colombian battalions. I believe we need to draw up watertight paperwork to hire a military contracting company, preferably an American one." "You want to give control of the Maracaibo plant to a bunch of mercenaries?" Egon de Bach sounded shocked. "It doesn't matter how perfectly worded the contract is. There's nothing but their own loyalty stopping them from taking control of a Tesla power plant." "Not only that, but all UCSA mercenaries are currently fighting proxy wars for the Brits. With Congress refusing to enter the war, it's the only legal way for Americans to fight with our allies across the pond. Why do you think the Army lacks personnel? They're all signed up with Lockheed, Pinkerton, and Patriot Group," Myrna added. "We're the goddamn Tesla Corporation. They'll find the personnel," Jeff protested. "Don't do it, Mr. Manley," said Tesla. The look on his eyes was not merely a lack of focus, but an active distance. The old man was thinking. "I want you to request UCS military ground support for the Maracaibo power plant." The radio underlined the sudden silence. Chuck Manson was singing words that had no meaning to Jeff's ears. "Mr. Tesla, sir, that would be very difficult," de Bach finally said. "Venezuela is essentially a vassal of the UCSA right now," Tesla argued. "It's true that the legal framework would be there in the treaties, and because it is not a declaration of war, Congress would have no say in it. But President Vance is still an objectivist, and frankly, Mr. Tesla, you have been America's most prominent supporter of the Futurist Party for half a century now. You served 2 Futurist presidents as a consultant," de Bach said. "And the Futurist Party is blocking American military support in the war effort through their majority in Congress, yes." Tesla nodded. It made Jeff half afraid that his head would fall off. "But my party is wrong about this war. Our British allies have been fighting the Tsar and the Grand Duke for 16 years now, and no matter how much economic support we give them, they will fail eventually." "You think you can deliver futurist support for American boots in Europe?" Myrna sounded skeptical. "No." Tesla's headshake was much more subtle than his nod had been. 1 inch too far, and the tubes in his neck would block his arteries. It was at that moment that Jeff realized what the old man was getting at. "Sir, I must warn you, this is a dangerous game." "Ah, fuck, you can't be serious, Dad." Myrna seemed to have understood only moments after Jeff. "If you won't dress like a lady, at least talk like one," her father scolded. I'm not sure I follow this, Aegon de Barc said.
The Colombians are strong allies to the French, but they're loose cannons. They stand on principle more often than they do reason, Myrna explained. If we get UCSA troops to protect our power plant and they try to take it, Congress will have no choice but to declare war. And if we get army support, the oil companies will get navy support. So even if the French start a naval assault on the drilling platforms, it'll be UCS troops that get shot, Jeff added. You won't change the mind of your party, you will force their hand.
Indeed. And after the war is over, I will personally pay an advertising company to make it seem like we had no choice but to support it, said Tesla.
Jeff didn't express his doubts as to whether the old man would still be around when the war was over. Russia was big, and France fierce. I'll get in touch with the DoD, sir, he said. And I will have the paperwork drawn up. Tesla power plant would be a prize even for the UCS Army, de Barc added.
Myrna, my disappointing manddaughter. I need someone down there who is both trustworthy and competent. Make sure things happen the way we want them to.
Myrna nodded. I've always liked the family mansion in Caracas. She turned to Jeff. I'll need an all-American security detail. Guys you would trust with your life. I don't know about the local loyalties, and I don't like the idea of being taken hostage by the security wing of my own company. Jeff was already drawing up a list of candidates in his head.
You'll get the best.
And obviously, Tesla said,
tonight's meeting never happened.
Absolutely, sir.
If you liked this story and would like to hear more, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. A new short story is uploaded every Wednesday, and there will occasionally be another one in between if I find the time. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.